All right, so let's get started. Let me introduce myself. My name is Sabeen Ali, and if you don't know me, I am the CEO and founder of Angel Hack.
But sometimes you have to call a master. Why would you date an amateur when you could date a professional? Great, see you then.
Okay, that's a great start. Um, and Diana, if you're saying something, you're on mute. Guys, we're nailing this now.
I'm saying I couldn't agree more with that assessment.
I guess said something like, why date an amateur when you can date a professional? Of course.
Yeah.
Good. Well, I'm a professional work from homer, and this is tips for working remotely. This topic is ever so relevant in the time of self-quarantine or mandated quarantine. However, I have been quarantining myself to work from home since 2010, when I started building my first startup. So in the beginning, I did a lot of things wrong, and I feel like that I've gotten to a place where I'm doing a good amount of things right, that I can put my thoughts together for you all and lead you through a webinar. So the webinar itself is going to take about 35 to 40 minutes, and then we'll leave the last 20 minutes or so for Q&A. Today with me, I have Diana Vauden and Christina Wilson, who will be co-presenting and sharing some of their tips for working from home as well. Let's jump into it. First, a little bit about Angel Hack. If you guys are not aware, Angel Hack has a community of over 250,000 code creators and change makers all over the world. We've organized 520, or actually more than 520 in-person events, and we have a presence in 148 cities in 66 countries. What does that mean? That means that we work across all time zones in all geos, and our team that mostly works from home has to be able to meet the very difficult demands of working all odd hours from home, from the car, while traveling. And we've really spent a lot of time perfecting our skill set so that we can make sure that every interaction that we have with anyone around the world is a great interaction, and that we're able to make a really great impression for the Angel Hack family. First things first, if you're going to work from home, we have to talk about the basics, which are your tech tools. And I know that this one is super basic and everybody's familiar with Slack right now, but it's really important to discuss. A lot of companies are adopting Slack as their main communication mode, and I highly recommend it as well. There are a number of other communication tools out there, but I really think that Slack is the one that beats them all. We utilize Slack for daily communication, and honestly, in our company, we tell everybody, if you're not on Slack, then you're not at work. You need to have a Slack presence and need to be able to constantly communicate with your coworkers, just as if you were in the workplace. We also have a ton of useful Slack integrations, which we utilize to help make our workday a lot more efficient. We also use Zoom. That's our preferred webinar and meeting software. The reason for us using Zoom is really because of its features and functionality. Our entire team uses this conferencing tool, and we're able to have one plan that can meet the needs of all of our team. Now, for me personally, I love Zoom because what I can do is I can have a personal meeting invite, and that's a personal URL that I use to set up all of my meetings. Now, this personal meeting I set up so that anyone who is invited to this meeting doesn't have to wait for me, the host, to join the meeting before they do, meaning that they can enter the room even before I do. And sometimes that's really helpful if I'm running late and I just haven't had a chance to log into the meeting, and I don't want people waiting on me. Another great thing that I do to all of my Zoom meetings is I set them to record. So I record every single meeting that I have on Zoom. This is really helpful because a lot of the times my hands are tied up. Either I'm working on another task, or you'll hear a little bit more about how I work from home with 2 little kids. And so a lot of times maybe I'm pushing a swing or a cart, or just dragging 2 kids behind me while also taking a phone call. And it's really great to be able to have a record of the call that I can reference later on, or that I can pass on to my team members so that they have all of the relevant information that they need. Now, G Suites is also a really great tool. We use Google Hangouts for internal calls. So it's, a click of a button and we're already talking to other team members. We don't really need a recording function. We just really need to be able to hop on a call immediately, hammer something out. And so that tool is really dedicated for our internal calls. And we seldom use it for external calls. And then the rest of the G Suite tools, the Google Slides and Word, etc. These are all things that are really helpful. Now, I know rescue time is something that Christina uses often. Christina, do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, this is just one. I think sometimes when you work from home, you can get kind of lost in your task. So I wanted to mention this one. It's something that helps kind of analyze your productivity and tracks your tasks so you don't get lost in time and you can start to be more mindful about where you're investing your time. So that's an extension, browser extension that I really like.
Great. During the Q&A section, we'd love to hear from you guys, or you could put it in chat what tools you like to use. So let's talk about the environment. So right now I'm working out of my garage. It's a makeshift workspace / play space / carport. The reason why I converted my garage to my office is because I really needed a dedicated space in my home where I know that I can close the door and there's no sound coming from the rest of the house, and whatever is happening in here is not disturbing what's happening in the house. This is really important if you have some really important meetings or you really just need some focusing time. So to be honest, I work about 75% of my time from my makeshift office in the garage. And I'm going to show you in just a little bit. I'm going to actually join with my laptop and I will show you some of the other workspaces that I have at home. But let me actually do this real quick. I'm going to turn off this camera and turn on here. All right, you guys should all be able to, there we go. Hi there. So now I've switched onto my laptop just so that you guys can see my setup here. So this is my standing desk. I actually just converted this a few days ago. And this is actually an art desk, a drafting desk. And I've kind of manually lifted it up. And every now and then, every other season, I switch it up so that I'm either sitting or standing. It's really great, effective way. This desk was from IKEA, cost a couple of $100, and it does the trick. Also, there's a car in here. There's toys in here. There's a cat in here. My office is a bit of a mess, but still it does the trick, especially when I have kids that are also self-quarantine and I need to make sure that, they're being able to share my space and or have the rest of the house while I use this space. Now I'm going to turn my camera off just for a second. I'm going to go upstairs to my other working spaces and then we will have Christina talk a little bit more about the rest of the environment stuff.
Some good old lighting and feng shui, Christina.
Yes. Yeah, I think environment definitely has an impact on our psychology sometimes more than we realize. There's a whole talk on this that I really loved, that your surroundings kind of become like a vision board, which becomes what you're going to manifest. So if you are surrounded by tons of clutter, it might make a little more chaos in your mind. I think it's very relevant now. Like I'm half Persian New Year. This is and it aligns with spring cleaning. This is the time that you dig out, go through all your stuff, kind of get rid of anything that doesn't align anymore. Just allows you to have a little more laser beam focus. Definitely what's around you is going to impact like your mood, thoughts, and concentration. And so also just a few other comments of like lighting. This is something I think a lot of us don't pay attention to. Like a lot of offices also have you're looking at so much blue light from screens all the time, and then a lot of office lighting is actually like the kind that zaps your energy. So just being aware of it. Oh. And then, having more of like other types of lighting, like amber light and more full spectrum lighting that will give you a better mood, give you more energy, and at nighttime moving towards like amber lighting. Feng Shui, just the whole science of energy and spaces. Like I love learning about it because it definitely impacts my mood. And for example, like having your desk in a place that you can view the room, they say is helpful. One little tip is like having something in your space that reminds you of a big goal, that they say that like helps give you energy because it's inspiring you. I've done that before. When I dreamed of going to Georgetown, I put a picture of it there, and it would be there, and it would help me like work harder just looking at that picture. So it might just help with some of your goals. But I'll switch it back to Sabeen.
Hey again. So I'm in my other working space, and usually when I'm up here, I put on these. These are noise canceling headphones. They're very helpful for drowning out the noise of these. And so I just want to share my space, my other workspace here. The reason why I love this workspace, and it's actually my preferred workspace, is because there's a ton of light and it's very close to the kitchen. But really it's about the lighting for me, and it's making sure that I have, sunlight and a quiet space to work. So when my kids are usually at school, I'll use that space. And then of course I have a traditional desk area right over here, which I can utilize as well. So, these are all my spaces. Also upstairs, I have a couple of nooks and crannies that I work from. It's really important, if you've been working from home for over 10 years like I have, to make sure that it's not just one space, that you have a couple of different options depending on your moods, depending on your tasks, etc. Okay, now it's Diana's turn to talk us through routines and schedules when you're working from home. Take it over, Diana.
Happy to. And I'm excited to do this because I like to say, do what I say, not what I do. Okay, so a big part of working from home is kind of debunking the myth that like, oh, I get to stay in bed all day and work from my jams and I'm going to be super productive. There's really a way to approach it to where you do maintain a high level of productivity, and it all starts with getting your day going right. So it's a bit of planning, it's a bit of routine, and you just want to make sure you stick to a schedule, and it just kind of helps your body, your mind, your emotions like stay on track with what it is that you need to do and what you need to accomplish day in and day out. But what I normally try to do is I try the night before, I do the night before, obviously set an alarm. If maybe you don't have a morning meeting, or, there's nothing like first thing that you have to get done, it's really easy to slip into some sort of like, oh, maybe I'll just sleep in, or, I'll kind of see how the morning goes. I would highly, I would say don't do that. Set your alarm, have that routine going for you. The other thing right after you get up is definitely try to accomplish that one little milestone. And one of the things that I always tell people is make your bed. It's the simplest, easiest to do goal that you can achieve right off the bat. And believe it or not, it really does send a message to your brain saying like, okay, I've accomplished that. I can go on to the next thing. So it's a real like great boost just to like not only get up in the day with a purpose, but then accomplish that little goal and then go on to the next things. The other one, and I'm very guilty of sometimes not doing this if I'm being completely honest, is get ready. Take that shower, brush your teeth, put yourself together. Because what you don't realize is even if it's day 1, day 2, or day 5, it will wear on you if you haven't like fully put yourself together. So it's just really important to make sure that you feel composed, clean, and healthy and vibrant. And I think it also carries through on your calls, even if they're not, video calls. It just makes a really big difference. So I think that's a very important and impactful part of your morning routine. So getting up, accomplishing that little milestone, putting yourself together, having that pride in how you're going to present yourself, again, even if nobody's seeing you, and then carrying that out throughout your day. So let's say you have your morning together, obviously, and now it's really about your schedule. And if your schedule is anything like mine, one day it's back-to-back calls, the other day, it's kind of here and there. And what I think sometimes, like, what can get away from you is knowing when the next thing is coming up. So what I like to do, and what our team does, is we obviously have our calendar invites that remind us as to the meetings that are coming up. They're typically 10-minute reminders, which is helpful. But what I've noticed is it's not always foolproof. So what I like to do, again, either the night before or the morning thereof, I like to assess my schedule. So I look at it from start to finish and I say, okay, what am I planning? It not only helps me to like mentally prepare and kind of think, like work out my thought processes through each of those calls, but it then allows me to just sort of like plan things out. So in addition to calendar reminders, I like to do phone alarms on my iPhone or Android, whatever you do. And I like to do either 30 minutes to 10 minutes, and it largely depends on the call. So if the call is something that's a bit more in depth and is going to take more of my energy, I'll usually do a 30-minute reminder, because that way I know I need to start switching over. Because one thing that works against me sometimes is if I don't feel like I can mentally change from one thought to the next. So usually a 30-minute reminder followed by a 10-minute, because I truly value being on time to my calls. And for me, on time is not getting there when the call's starting. It's usually getting there and prepared about like 5 minutes before. So that's just my general approach. Calendar reminders followed by alarm clock reminders. I mean, honestly, if I could just have some person like walking around with like a bell telling me like it's time, I would do that too. But that's obvious. These two are obviously more practical. The other thing that I like to do is a lot of times we talk to a lot of clients, we talk to ambassadors, we talk to so many different people that our days can be just riddled with calls. So I tend to allocate a day or a half a day to working time. And I ask that, my colleagues respect this time and say like, listen, I get that we might need to have a call, but you can't do it during this time because I need to get to all the action items that came out of the calls the day before. So that's really important to me. Otherwise I start to feel a little bit overwhelmed, and, I feel like I'm having all these productive conversations, but not really anything is coming out of it. So I highly recommend parceling your time on your calendar, setting blocks to where you can focus on what it is that you need to get done. And it's really important. It's a really great boundary, and that you should respect for yourself, and that you should ask others to respect as well. And I think everybody can understand that. And then of course, there might be some need for some flexibility along the way. But, the other thing is sharing a work and team calendar. So all of the Angel Hack team works remotely. I don't think, the majority of us are in the same city. So it's really helpful for us to kind of peer over at someone's calendar and say like, oh, okay, this is the time that they have blocked, or this is when they're on these calls. It's a great method for transparency and just understanding like what that person's workload and what their attention is being dedicated towards. So sharing those team calendars, having that high visibility amongst your team is super helpful. And I think also just reassuring as far as what everybody's doing and how you can best interact with them. Because you don't want to inconvenience anybody, but if you don't know what they're doing and you just like, schedule something or, think that they're available, you kind of want to try to mitigate that. So again, sharing calendars is a really great way to just like keep an eye on what people are up to and then how you can like work best within their schedule. All right, so there is no such thing as too many pings. I think any of you who have worked with me know this. I will ping the crap out of you. And it's not rude. It's just kind of what needs to get done. And there's definitely there's a finesse to it. And I think there's you know, a courtesy as well to it. So you don't want to be aggressive about your pings per se, but you know, if there is a timeline or a deadline that's approaching and you need something from somebody, it's okay to ask. Just ask nicely. And just like, if there's any question about the timeline or ETA, have that open conversation and dialogue with your colleagues, with your clients, whatever the case may be. That would be something that I would say is just really important, because you don't want to just kind of keep saying, oh yeah, this is coming, and the person's like, oh yeah, no, I know. You want to kind of figure out exactly how that is panning out for both of you so you can work together. So ping away, be polite, and try to form an understanding of what it is, or how you guys are working together, I guess. Sorry, didn't say that word well. And then there's a morning pro tip, which I am gonna throw back to Christina, because I'm not a pro on this one yet. So Christina, do you want to take this one on?
Sure. Yeah, this one is, it's actually a tip from the book, The Big Leap, which I really love. And it's basically just looking at how energy can influence us throughout the whole day. So a lot of times people kind of leave their favorite things like as a reward till later, or your passion projects or whatever. But he was saying just 20 to 30 minutes in the morning, if you do something at that time that you're excited about and you love, then it actually surges your energy throughout the day. It's like a wave, like you think of it as a wave that you jump on and you can then surf it through the day. So, you know, if there's something in your work that you're really excited about, doing it then, or if not, like, yeah, a passion project outside of work, doing that in the morning just to get that like boost of your passion going. I think right now, especially, we're getting a lot of negative news cycles and things, and in the mornings, like even yesterday I was like, oh my gosh, I read so many negative things in the morning, and I saw a study that it impacts your mental health for 24 hours, one bad article. So, you know, when we're absorbing all of that toxicity in the morning, it's going to put us in like a drain state throughout the day. So just paying attention to that, like the mindfulness element of how that fuels you.
I also heard a study, this was a few years back, sorry not to interject, but I heard if you accomplish one hard task or cumbersome task right off the get-go versus putting it off, that can be highly productive as well. I can't vouch for that anymore. That was a couple of years, maybe it's debunked by now, but that was one thing I've heard.
Definitely, no, I think that's true. Like it gives you a sense of accomplishment that, you know, also carries through the day. And that definitely feeds into breaks and boundaries. I think this is important just for me, like when I switched to working from home, there was the worlds kind of melt together. And, you know, in Angel Hack, the first year, it was like a lot of fun projects, but you know, for a hackathon, I'm sure a lot of you in your jobs, there's always more you can do. There's literally always a million more things that you can add on to make everything better. And I burnt myself out, and I, you know, becoming aware of that cycle of like, wow, you know, I think our culture has made us think like you have to like constantly hustle to have any success. So, but just embracing the concept that rest and recovery and reflection are also essential to the success formula, because you just can't carry on forever if you're not fueling yourself. So I think every person is different. So being very cognizant of what nourishes you and what fuels you. I saw this teacher saying these next few weeks and months in quarantine, like people are gonna have to face themselves like they've never done before and become aware of all these aspects of ourselves and things rising up in you. So paying attention to that, knowing what that is that fuels you. So, you know, realizing desk fatigue, that is real. I mean, for me, you know, how the body fuels the mind, like just sometimes taking a call on a walk, or being like, you know what, I just need some sun for 15 minutes. Little things parsed throughout the day have been super helpful. I mean, there's so many amazing yoga at home videos or whatever your favorite workout is. I think also, it gives you that blood flow and boosts your concentration. I'm trying to do morning workouts. One of my old coworkers said like she does them religiously, and it's just she gets these like energy surges throughout the day. And another one that I really love that I've started the past few weeks is pranayam, which is like the Ayurvedic breathing techniques. And there's so many kinds. There's like hundreds of types, and there's one to calm you down when you have anxiety. There's one to give you an energy boost. And I was amazed. Like there's one that they say is better than coffee. Like, and I've been doing it, and I swear it's better than coffee. Like it just gives you this like brain energy flow to the brain, and it's really good. So if anyone wants like an article on that, just let me know. Also meditation, I think, dealing with some of the anxiety that's being thrown at us and the fears thrown at us, super helpful just to take a little bit, can increase your focus all day. And they say, especially people that don't have time for meditation, they're the ones that need it the most. So just, giving yourself a little bit of that investment in your mental health.
Great. I'm not sure if we have any people managers on this call today, but I did want to go over some of the team dynamic best practices that you can put into place in your workplace, whether you're managing others or you want to give these as tips to your manager. So one thing that we've implemented is a digital daily stand-up. So we have our GeekBot app in our Slack, and everyone's required to put in what they accomplished the day before, what they're going to be working on today, and then if there are any roadblocks. It's a great way for me to be able to touch base and get a sense for what everyone's working on without requiring a global team to have to do a stand-up all at one time. So we have folks that work in India, folks that work in APAC, others in Europe, and then of course here in the Americas. And so it's much easier just to do a digital stand-up, and then I can see what everyone's working on and follow up with them individually if needed. Another thing to take into consideration is that working from home sometimes means that you don't really see other people. In our company, we don't really mandate that internal calls have to have your camera on. So you don't get to look, eye to eye to people probably for weeks. And so it's really important that there are some activities that you put into place that keep company morale up and your company spirit up. We always have a team building question at the beginning of every team meeting where it gives us an easy sense to be able to relate to each other and just, have a conversation without it having to be related to work. It gives us an opportunity to learn more about our coworkers. And although we're not sitting in an office together on a daily basis, it just gives us an opportunity to get closer. Another thing about not being able to see someone eye to eye every single day is having clear objectives. So there are a lot of times where, someone will show up to work and they didn't do what they were supposed to do the night before. And immediately as you see their face or they see your face, there's kind of like this, I need to get this done, or I really need to get my act together. Well, that doesn't exist in a virtual workplace. So you guys need to be really careful on setting clear objectives for your team and making sure daily objectives, weekly objectives, and departmental objectives are clearly articulated, established, and that there's clear goals and timelines to work around them. And of course, more importantly, you have to be accountable and have some sense of accountability. So as a manager who manages a team that's across many time zones, that also does not come into one office, I have to come up with unique ways to make sure that I'm on the same page as my team members, that we have the same objectives, and then also I'm holding them accountable when those objectives are not met. And then same thing about, being present for your people. Make sure that you're always available for one-on-ones. I have a one-on-one with every person on my team. At a point in time when the team was much larger, I had maybe a 2-on-1, or it had departmental stand-ups and then reporting into one-on-one with managers. So you can set this up in a way that that's most conducive to your company. But it's really, really important to make sure that just as if you were in a working space and you're seeing people on a hourly basis and a daily basis, a regular basis, that you're establishing those protocols and those norms within your virtual workplace as well. What about the kids? So I don't know if you guys saw a little bit earlier, my little one was running through here, and she may make an appearance in a little bit. I have been working from home as long as I have been a mom, and I have dealt with every single scenario that you could possibly think of while trying to manage my work and my kids at the same time. A really good example of things going wrong when you're working with kids is one time I was on a call with a client, and I was trying to sell that client on a hackathon, and my little one grabbed the emergency alarm SOS key and pressed it. The alarms went off and they were blazing. I had to hang up the phone and call the client back after a couple of minutes after I figured out what was going on. Lo and behold, as I'm continuing to talk to her, about 15 minutes later, the cop showed up at my back door. And so I had to profusely apologize and tell her, hey, the police are here to check up on us and make sure that, that it was indeed a false alarm, and I'm going to have to call you back. Luckily, she was a really great sport about it. And I know that, there are some clients or customers that might not be as forgiving. And so you just have to make sure that you're creating your boundaries. Now I put away all of those types of things, all sharp objects, all loud noises, they're put away so that the kids cannot touch them while I'm working or at all. We also have various spaces in our house so that they know that if mom has her noise canceling headphones on, then it's a do not disturb type of situation. And if they do disturb, then there's consequences like getting their phone taken away. Also, if I'm in my garage, more often the kids are taking over the rest of the house. Another thing that we do in our house is meal prepping. So what I've noticed is that kids at home, I would say this is what we experienced this during the summer, but we're definitely experiencing this during quarantine time. The most common question during the day is, what is there to eat? And I'm hungry. And as someone who works from home, you cannot stop every 2 hours and prep a meal for your kids, or, give them healthy snacks. Either they don't eat for hours or they just end up eating junk food. So what we've done is we actually prep Sunday night all these meal kits. So they're just kind of small Tupperware boxes. The entire fridge is filled with them. There's a couple of different dishes in there. And then so the kids can actually take that out and warm that up themselves. And then we also have prepackaged snacks so that the kids can grab the snacks, and they're allowed to have one unhealthy snack if they choose one healthy snack. So just trying to put those routines in place and trying to automate as much as you can possibly can.
Awesome. Thank you. Yeah, just because we're talking about working from home, some people have been like asking us more during this quarantine time. Like, I think people have this yearning now, oh, they have extra time at home. They want to work on something or do something collaborative with people that maybe has an positive impact on the world. So we just wanted to give a shout out to some that we have coming up. We're working on a coronavirus specific hackathon, super excited about that, and also climate change focus hackathon. So just, keep in touch with us. We have some details coming, but it's actually so nice, like seeing how all these organizations from all over the world, people we didn't even see working together, have just all come together, just even collecting data and also open source tools and thought leadership from nonprofits on the problems, so that the hackers can really focus on making something very useful, and quite an awesome team that helps to make a lot of these ideas a reality. We've had a few in the past that they really, in impact tech, it's not easy to get those scenarios where those ideas can get funded and become a reality, but it's an awesome partner ecosystem that is willing to do that and implement them around the world. So just keep an eye out for that.
Great. Well, we are almost left with 20 minutes on the dot. So thank you, Christina. and Diana for being so precise with your timing. I did see a couple of questions, or a lot of questions, come across on the chat. So let me get to the first one that I read in there, which is the standing desk and how much time I would recommend for working on the standing desk. So for me personally, when I started working on the standing desk, I actually set a very small goal for myself to do it 2 hours at a time. Now I'm at a place where I can actually spend my entire working day standing up. I feel really comfortable, and I feel like it maintains my energy, and I can actually get my tasks done. In the beginning, when I was standing, I wasn't actually able to be as productive as I was sitting, but it's just a matter of adjusting and training your body. I will tell you, this last couple of days, I wasn't feeling so great. So I did, I wasn't trying my standing desk because it was just not making me feel amazing. And so it's good if you have a standing desk and you can adjust the height on the fly, then that's great. If not, then make sure that you have an alternative working space, because some days you just don't want to stand up and work. There was another question about alternative working spaces. Now, not everybody has the luxury to be able to have multiple working spaces in your house. Maybe you are sharing a space with a roommate or a housemate or something along those lines. And so I am fortunate enough to, have this 3-level home. I don't have a lot of square footage, but the square footage is just stacked on top of each other. And I also had the ability to convert my garage into, well, at least half of it into my office. So I'm a big believer in having multiple spaces to work from. My garage, as you saw, it does not have any natural light in it. So again, I work from that space when I really need to concentrate and focus or get away from the noise up here. But what I really prefer is this space up here where I can actually have the natural light, and I can choose. Right now I'm sitting down. Earlier I was standing up.
Yeah, I could speak to that too. As somebody who tends to want to work from bed 24/7, I can definitely see a difference in my productivity level when I'm simply sitting upright. So, depending on your space and availability, I get it. I don't have a lot of extra space around me. So I think just having a hard surface where your computer, you have some, arm room, maybe like a notepad and paper, even just enough space where you're sitting up, you're alert, and you have your workspace in front of you. That could be in the corner of a room, it could be makeshift, it doesn't matter, but just somehow being in that more alert position, I find for myself, makes me, exponentially more productive and focused versus if I'm just kind of hunched over or lounging in my bed and working off of my lap and laptop. So yeah.
Thanks. Erin has a question of what other tools like Asana or Notion have you tried? To be very honest with you, at Angel Hack, we've tried all of them. Trello, Asana, Evernote, the list kind of goes on and on. Somehow, some way, we always make our way back to Google Docs and Google Spreadsheet. Only because I think that our team prefers to maybe keep everything within Google Spreadsheets. I really don't know. But every now and then, someone will come on, maybe a new team member, and this individual wants to bring on a new tool. We're very open to it. But really the thing that has lasted in our organization the longest, or we've actually shut down Trello, we've shut down Evernote, only to switch it over to, a G Suite tool. Not a lot of organizations might be that way. I've been in other companies where they just have tools galore. I think for us, we try to keep it simple. When you work with people from different countries, how do you manage time zone issues to get things done? You have some extra tools. I definitely have my tricks, but Diana and Christina are the ones that really work on different time zones and multiple time zones. Do you guys want to talk about that a little bit?
For me, when I work with my ambassadors, I make all my times available on Calendly, and then so like for them, they can find the one that's best for them. And I'll do like some days with really early mornings and some days with later nights, just so that it works. Like something in my week should work for everyone. So that's been my method. But yeah, I don't know if any of you guys have anything else, or Diana, feel free to make a suggestion.
Yeah, no, I'm a little bit old school. I'm not huge on tools. I mentioned earlier that I like to do blocks of time for certain things, and calls is one of them as well. And what I try to do is I like to be as considerate as possible. So I would more so inconvenience my schedule to be more conducive to whomever I'm trying to connect with schedule. And honestly, all I do is I Google and I'm like, if it's 8 a.m. in California, what time is it? So and so. I swear to God, that's about as extensive as it gets for me. And then I just like to offer up some options to whomever I'm trying to set up a call or meeting with, and try to make it work best for them. And then, as we go on, we can find times that are conducive to both parties. If it's going to be more of like on a frequent basis. So yeah, I just try to do the time zone juggle and see what works best for them.
Yeah, real quick for me, what I try to do, or what I have been doing for the past several years, is actually blocking my Tuesdays and Thursdays to work on a different time zone. So I start work actually at noon, and I'll go and I'll work all the way until 10 p.m., sometimes later, just so that I can meet the time zones of India and Asia Pac and Saudi Arabia, etc. The other days of the week, I make myself available in the Eastern time zone. I've set I use HubSpot calendaring. So I set my HubSpot calendar tool or meeting tool so that it mimics my calendar. And so whoever signs on can actually find time slots in every single week that actually meet their time zones as well. Of course. Are there any other questions out there? I know that there's a robust conversation going on in Slack. I don't want to miss anyone's questions or comments. Now is the time.
Can we unmute people?
All right, guys. Well, in that case, I want to thank everybody for joining this webinar. We really appreciate it. We're actually going to post this recording and publish it across our multiple media channels. But if you have any feedback for us or any thoughts that you'd like for us to add to this presentation, please let us know, and we'd be happy to incorporate it. Thank you all so much for joining, and good luck working from home. Take care, everyone.